Have you ever been told that you are too responsible, that you care too much, try too hard, or carry too much on your shoulders? Maybe you are the person others rely on when something goes wrong, the one who keeps the peace in difficult situations, the one who anticipates everyone else's needs and tries to meet them. Many people who struggle with chronic illness share these same qualities. They are deeply caring, highly responsible, conscientious, and reliable. But over time, these traits can quietly become patterns of overgiving and overresponsibility that drain the nervous system and the body. Today, we're going to explore how certain personality traits that are common in highly sensitive people can gradually set the stage for nervous system dysregulation and chronic illness. Welcome back. I'm Madeleine Lowry, a neural retraining specialist. Over the last several episodes, we've been exploring the connection between sensitivity and the nervous system. We've talked about how sensitive people tend to process experiences more deeply, how they are often more impacted by trauma, and how that can contribute to patterns such as anxiety, fatigue, dysautonomia, and chronic symptoms. Today, I want to focus on something that many people eventually notice when they look back at their lives. Certain personality patterns tend to appear again and again in people who later develop chronic illness. These are patterns such as people-pleasing, perfectionism, overachieving, overresponsibility, emotional caretaking, peacekeeping, or fixing other people's problems. On the surface, these traits often look admirable. They are associated with being responsible, thoughtful, and compassionate. But when these patterns become extreme or chronic, they can quietly place a tremendous burden on the nervous system. To understand how these patterns develop, it helps to go back to childhood. Highly sensitive children tend to be very perceptive. They notice emotional undercurrents in the environment. They pick up on tension, anger, sadness, or conflict, even when the adults believe that they are hiding it. For a sensitive child growing up in an environment that includes frequent conflict, emotional unpredictability, authoritarian parenting, criticism or perfectionism, family stress, or difficult personalities can feel deeply overwhelming. Even if these experiences were not extreme or abusive, the sensitive child's nervous system may interpret them as threatening or destabilizing, and children naturally look for ways to cope with that stress. One very common coping strategy for sensitive children is trying to restore safety by controlling the emotional environment. Children cannot change their parents or their circumstances, but they can try to influence the situation in other ways. They may begin to think, if I behave perfectly, things will be okay. If I don't make any mistakes, no one will be angry. If I take care of everyone else, maybe everything will stay calm. Or if I help fix other people's problems, the household will feel safer. These adaptations are very intelligent survival strategies for a child, but they often evolve into personality patterns that follow the person into adulthood. Over time, these early coping strategies can turn into traits such as people-pleasing. People-pleasing develops when someone learns early in life that approval and harmony feel safer than conflict. Sensitive people may become highly skilled at sensing what others want and giving it to them. They anticipate needs, they avoid disappointing others, and they suppress their own needs in order to maintain harmony. Perfectionism. Perfectionism often develops when mistakes or criticism felt threatening earlier in life. The nervous system learns, if I do everything perfectly, I can prevent problems. Perfectionism can lead people to push themselves far beyond healthy limits. They may feel constant pressure to perform, achieve, and meet expectations. Overachievement. Many sensitive people channel their drive into achievement. Being competent, productive, and successful can feel like a way to gain safety and approval. But this often leads to a chronic state of overexertion. The person may never feel that they have done enough. Excessive responsibility. Another very common pattern is over-responsibility. Sensitive individuals often feel responsible not only for their own lives, but for the emotions and well-being of others. They may feel responsible for keeping the peace in relationships, resolving family conflicts, supporting struggling loved ones, or preventing disappointment or distress. Over time, this becomes a heavy psychological burden. Emotional caretaking. Some sensitive people develop the role of emotional caretaker for their families. They become the listener, the fixer, the mediator. They try to soothe others' pain and prevent conflict. While this role can feel meaningful, it often means the person is carrying emotional burdens that do not belong to them. Now, when these personality traits carry into adulthood, they often shape the person's relationships. Sensitive people may find themselves drawn into relationships where they are giving more than they receive, taking care of others emotionally, absorbing other people's stress and pain, and trying to rescue or fix difficult situations. They may feel responsible for maintaining harmony even when others behave unfairly or irresponsibly. And because these patterns developed early in life, they often feel normal. They may come to believe that this is simply what it means to love other people. A belief that often emerges from these early experiences is this: love means taking on other people's burdens. Sensitive people may feel that being a good partner, friend, or family member means absorbing other people's emotional pain, trying to solve their struggles, sacrificing their own needs, or putting themselves last. While empathy and compassion are beautiful qualities, constantly carrying other people's emotional burdens can be exhausting for the nervous system. And over time, the body begins to experience this emotional labor as chronic stress. One of the most important things to understand is that the brain does not distinguish sharply between physical and emotional threats. Should the nervous system experiences such as interpersonal conflict, constant responsibility, emotional caretaking, fear of disappointing others, or suppressing anger or frustration can trigger the same stress response as more obvious dangers. The body releases stress hormones. Muscles tense. Heart rate increases. The nervous system enters survival mode. If this happens occasionally, the body quickly recovers. But when these patterns occur multiple times a day, day after day, year after year, the stress response can become chronic. Over time, chronic activation of the stress response can begin affecting multiple systems in the body. These can contribute to conditions such as chronic fatigue, dysautonomia, digestive disorders, chronic pain, migraines, anxiety or panic, immune dysregulation, or autoimmune conditions, to name a few. Often the person looks back and realizes that they have spent years or even decades living in a state of constant over-responsibility and emotional vigilance. Their nervous system has been working overtime. Eventually, the body reaches a point where it can no longer maintain that level of stress, and symptoms begin to appear. Sensitive individuals are particularly vulnerable to this dynamic for several reasons. They often have strong empathy, deep emotional awareness, high conscientiousness, a desire to help others, and a strong sense of duty and responsibility. All of these qualities are strengths, but without healthy boundaries, they can easily lead to chronic overextension. Sensitive people may not realize how much they are carrying until their health forces them to stop. And this is where neural retraining can be so helpful. Neural retraining does not simply teach new behaviors. It works at the level of the subconscious patterns that drive these responses. In a session, the subconscious mind begins identifying and neutralizing the emotional charge associated with past experiences that shaped these coping patterns. As those charges dissolve, the nervous system begins to recognize that it no longer needs to operate in constant survival mode. People often find that they feel calmer. They become less reactive to others' emotions. They feel less responsible for solving everyone's problems. And they develop healthier boundaries naturally. These changes are not forced. They are not due to discipline. They emerge as the nervous system settles and rebalances. One of the best outcomes of this process is that sensitivity itself begins to feel different. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by other people's emotions, sensitive individuals often rediscover their natural strengths of empathy, intuition, creativity, and emotional depth. The goal is not to become less sensitive. The goal is to allow sensitivity to exist within a balanced and regulated nervous system. If you recognize yourself in some of the patterns we talked about today, people-pleasing, perfectionism, over-responsibility, emotional caretaking, it does not mean there is something wrong with you. These patterns often develop as intelligent ways of coping with earlier experiences. Your nervous system was trying to create safety and stability for you, but those patterns may no longer be serving you. And the good news is that the nervous system is capable of learning new ways of responding. As we begin to release the stress patterns stored in the subconscious mind, the nervous system can gradually return to balance. And when that happens, many people find that both their emotional well-being and their physical health begin to change in meaningful ways. If you would like to learn more about this work, please visit tcneuralretraining.com. Schedule a free consultation by phone or take our free quiz. And if this episode resonated with you, please follow the podcast, give it a positive rating, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Thanks for listening. Content of this podcast copyright 2026 by Twin Cities Neural Retraining. Music by Barbara Ben.